There's a gang in this class. I'm the boss. Oh, I see.
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate.
Hey, that's biology.
What should a girl do? Join up with the gang or go it alone?
Pretty Yvonne Lime lives on the screen these dramatic and important events in every young girl's life.
Her first sincere kiss.
I don't want my girl messing around with those creeps.
Her first grown-up giving of love. Her joining of a secret society.
Oh, what Hellcat she's going to make.
The Hellcats are the Hellraisers in every high school, determined to be different, daring, defiant, dedicated to doing well all the wrong things.
Did you ever steal?
No.
You'll learn.
If you're gonna ditch me on a Saturday night, you can spend a whole day with your Hellcats.
You know how to reach me when you want to apologize.
On the Connie Harris case, you asked me to call. Well, I'm afraid there may be trouble.
There's the devil to pay when high school Hellcats and high school hotshots get together on an anything goes party.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're going to catch me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me.
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that's...
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're going to make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first.
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
Thank you for joining us for the American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And on this episode, we explore yet another example of AIP's version of Wayward Youth as cliques turn deadly in High School Hellcats from 1958.
High School Hellcats was directed by Edward L. Bernds, written by Mark Lowell and Jan England, and produced by Charles Buddy Rogers for American International Pictures.
High School Hellcats stars Yvonne Lime as Joyce Martin, Bret Halsey as Mike Landers, Jana Lund as Connie Harris, Suzanne Sidney as Dolly Crane, Heather Ames as Meg, Nancy Kilgas as Laurie.
It also stars Rhoda Williams as Trudy Davis, Don Shelton as Roger Martin, Viola Harris as Linda Martin, Robert Anderson as Police Lieutenant Manders, Martin Braddock as Rip, Arthur Marshall as Mr. Anderson, and Tommy Cook as Freddie.
High School Hellcats begins with an establishing shot of the high school. A car pulls up and it's cut off by a jalopy, but they both seem to be going to the same destination. These are high school kids on their way to school or being dropped off at school.
We go inside the school and inside the girls' restroom, where a girl gang meeting is in session. Gang leader Connie lights up a cigarette as Dolly and her knife sit down under a no smoking sign.
Also present is Meg. Meg asks about the new girl. What's her name and has Connie asked her yet? Connie replies, Joyce Martin, and I'm not going to ask her, I'm going to tell her. They haven't had a good initiation all semester. Connie thinks she'll start Joyce off with the slacks test.
Dolly stabs the bench that she's sitting on with her switchblade, and sourly crabs, that's too easy. Connie says that Dolly bugs her, and Dolly hurls her knife into the door, where it sticks. And then we have the title, where a man is erasing High School Hellcats off a chalkboard to make room for the credits, over an insistent jazzy beat.
Once we're through the credits, Connie, Dolly, Meg, and another girl, Laurie, go to their home ec class. They're all delighted to find that they have a substitute teacher today. A male substitute. Teaching home ec class.
Wild.
The sub, Mr. Anderson, asked the girls to take their seats. Where should we take them, Teach? Asked Connie, which naturally causes the room to roar with laughter.
I wouldn't say naturally, because that's really not that funny. He revises his request and asks them to sit down, and then does a brief roll call, calling new girl Joyce Martin up front to get a card to fill out. Then he asks another girl to pass out the books, for which she makes a big dumb show of obsequious obedience, but she then starts hurling them at the other girls.
Mr. Anderson asks them to stop throwing the books around, and since he cannot restore order, he heads to the office for reinforcements.
After he breaks his gavel on the desk.
He had a gavel?
Yeah, he had a gavel. He's like whacking it down, and then it breaks. It was funny. Then seeing he cannot quell the shenanigans, glumly leaves the classroom. Once they're alone, Connie takes the opportunity to make Joyce's acquaintance, telling her, there's a gang in this school. She's the boss. Joyce politely says, oh, I see. To which Connie replies, "What do you see?" Joyce tries to be less literal and says that she understands Connie.
"I may let you in," says Connie. "Thanks, but I," starts Joyce. "But what?" asks Connie, and Joyce continues. "I mean, I'd like to, that is, if you want me." Connie says she hasn't decided if she wants her yet. Then she tells Joyce that all the girls are wearing slacks tomorrow. "Isn't that against the rules?" asks Joyce. "I make the rules here," says Connie. "Oh, all right then, I'll wear them," says Joyce. "Thanks," Connie sarcastically says.
Then Connie assumes the teacher's place and mocks the sub's inadequacy. Then, knowing that their time alone is almost up, the girls assume an air of angelic studiousness, much to the consternation of Mr. Anderson, who is returned with the principal so that she may witness the female rebellion, which is no longer in progress.
Now we're at Joyce's home and we meet her parents, Roger and Linda. They're at breakfast. Roger is reading the morning paper as Linda pours coffee. Roger comments that Joyce is always running late. Linda thinks Roger picks on her too much, but Roger thinks she just needs more discipline. He says she's always wearing those tight sweaters and lipstick.
Linda notes that Roger's being much harder on his daughter than he usually is. And then Joyce sails into the breakfast room, and Roger notices that she's wearing pants. He says that she never wore them at her old school. "I guess they don't mind here," says Joyce. Dad growls that he's getting the car ready, so Joyce should hurry up with her juice. Joyce, once he's gone, asks her mom if they just had a fight. "Joyce," says Linda as a warning.
Now we're back at the school, and the girls are in health class waiting for Joyce to arrive. She does, and she notices that she's the only person in the room with slacks on.
"Oh."
Connie says they must have all forgotten. "But Connie," starts Joyce. "But what?" asks Connie. "You got a complaint to make?" Then the teacher, Miss Trudy Davis, comes in, so all the girls take their seats.
Miss Davis starts a power play with Connie over the use of names. Connie calls Miss Davis Teach, and Miss Davis returns the favor by calling Connie Hey You. Eventually, Connie cedes the battle to her teacher. Miss Davis announces that the course is health and physical education, but for that subject today, they're going to have an open forum. She asks, what do the girls want to talk about?
"Boys," says Meg. She wants to know everything on the subject. Miss Davis starts with the obvious, telling them that, biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. The class erupts into, "Oh yeah, that's for sure." She goes on to tell the girls of the age-old saying that man is polygamous by nature and woman is monogamous, and they all know how far from the truth that is. "Come on, Miss Davis," says Dolly, "use words we know."
Dolly demands that she dumb down the message for them. Miss Davis asks for someone to go to the chalkboard and then volunteers Joyce to do it. Joyce looks sheepish and then complies, revealing her forbidden trousered legs. Miss Davis asks if Joyce knew that that was against the dress code, but unfortunately Joyce can't be cool about it.
She glances over at Connie, who's giving her a death stare. Then Joyce runs out of the room and outside.
After she leaves, Miss Davis glares at Connie, looking very suspicious.
Once outside, Joyce continues on to a small diner where she is the only customer. She sits at the counter and orders a coffee. She's waited on by Mike Landers. He gives her a cup of coffee and asks if she's new here, if she's cutting school, and why she's doing so soon.
Joyce asks if Mike owns the place. Mike says no, he just works here. At that, Joyce asks him to just go back to work and leave her alone. She stomps off to a table and he follows, sitting uncomfortably close. He says usually the girls travel in packs around here, but Joyce denies pack membership. Mike says she will one day.
Joyce says she's not anything like those other girls. "Good," says Mike. Then she tells him all about the slacks incident. "That's a crummy trick," says Mike. Then he offers to top off her coffee. He finally introduces himself, and Joyce does in turn to him. Joyce apologizes for being a creep.
Why is she apologizing to him? He's the one that sat on her lap, basically.
And Mike says, "That's all right."
Joyce asks for Mike's story. Mike's studying to be an engineer, and he has no family. Joyce envies the fact that no one can tell him what to do, and he says you could even miss that if you didn't have anyone. Joyce info dumps on Mike. She's in high school, lives near here, her dad's a lawyer, and she's an only child. She doesn't know what she wants to be, but supposes that she'll get married someday. And that's it. No mention of her mother or any meaningful plans.
Then Joyce says she should be going. Mike asks if he'll see her again. "Uh-huh," says Joyce. "But not during school hours," says Mike. He tells her the coffee is on the house, and she thanks him and heads for home.
Joyce goes home where she finds she's a latchkey kid. Her mom left a note on the mantle. She's out till 7 or 7:30, and Joyce can make a sandwich if she's hungry. Joyce is angry at her mom for having a life, and so turns on the television and flops down on the couch. And she can't have any homework. She was only in school for 5 minutes.
Roger, her father, returns home a bit later to find Joyce asleep on the couch with the TV still blaring. He turns it off and asks where Joyce's mother is. "The note didn't say," says Joyce. "Probably her bridge club again," grumbles Roger. He sits down to read the evening paper, turning his back to Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce tries to approach him, but his body language says back off. And then Mom Linda arrives home and breezily sails through the living room, inquiring whether Joyce ate, yes, if Roger wants some coffee, and how Roger's business meeting went. Everything worked out all right, he says. She goes to get the coffee as the phone rings.
Joyce answers it, and it's Dolly. Dolly invites Joyce to meet her, and Joyce says she'll be there by 8:30. She hangs up and tells her father she's been invited to a homework party from one of the girls at school. Then she runs upstairs.
Linda returns and tells Roger that the coffee's not ready. She tells Roger that if Joyce is going out, she should put on a coat. It's very cold out.
Then Joyce comes back downstairs wearing a slip to ask her mother where her purple sweater is. Roger sees her and reminds her that he's told her not to walk around the house like that. Now go and get dressed, he says. But Dad, it's only a slip. Now go upstairs and put something on. But Dad, you heard what I said, shouts Roger as he slaps Joyce across the face. Joyce looks at her father, shocked. Then she runs back upstairs.
Just then, Mom Linda comes back with a laden coffee tray. Linda asks Roger why he just hit his daughter, but Roger has no explanation. I have one, but it's not very charitable. Something really wrong about this scene. Now we see Joyce outside in an abandoned theater. She apparently gave up the idea of wearing whatever the slip was going to be under, as she's wearing pedal pushers and a sweater. She skulks around the theater, then finds a way in through an inadequately boarded up window.
Once Joyce is inside, Dolly jumps out and shines a light in Joyce's face. You ever been in an abandoned movie house before? Asks Dolly. It's spooky. It feels like it's about to come to life. Then Dolly tells Joyce that Connie and the other girls are upstairs.
All the girls are there. Joyce is given Laurie's seat, right next to Connie. Connie declares that this is going to be a short meeting. She introduces Joyce to the gang, and then says that Joyce passed the first test of 3. When she passes all of them, she can join the Hellcats. That's their gang. Connie explains the perks of membership. If she's accepted, she can have a social life. If not, no parties, no friends, and no dates with boys. They'll see to that.
Connie says that Joyce will find the Hellcats will be a home away from home. That is, unless you decide you don't need us, says Connie. I guess I do need a club like this, says Joyce. Connie continues, saying that even if Joyce passes her initiation, there are certain requirements to maintain membership. 1, they don't like eggheads, so if she absolutely has to pass her classes to stay out of trouble at home, it's okay, as long as she doesn't do any better than D's. The second, they don't like teachers' pets. The only teacher they're allowed to show respect to is Miss Davis. And 3, remember this place, don't tell anyone about it, and next time, bring your own flashlight. Then Connie dismisses the group, reminding everyone to not study when they get home.
Everyone leaves except for Joyce and Dolly. Dolly pulls a bottle out of a paper sack and makes Joyce do a shot. They laugh as she chokes on the hooch. Then Connie asks Joyce if she's ever stolen anything, and of course she hasn't, so Connie says, "You'll learn." She tells Joyce to meet her and Dolly tomorrow after school.
The next afternoon, Connie, Dolly, and Joyce convene in front of a jeweler's store, and the 3 girls go inside. Connie speaks with the clerk while Dolly and Joyce head to the back of the store. They pick up items and place them in their purses, then walk out. Connie ends her conversation and follows them out the door.
And then they go to Mike's coffee house. I know it's not his, but I don't know what else to call it. Mike sees Joyce, but Joyce pretends not to see him. He spots the earrings that got boosted and picks them up to admire them. Connie says that they were out early Christmas shopping. Mike greets Joyce by name, but she doesn't engage. After he goes, Connie wants to know how he knew her name. Joyce explains that she came in there the day she cut class. Connie calls him a wise guy and tells Joyce to stay away from him. Joyce doesn't argue.
Then Connie admires the trinket that Joyce came away with after their heist. Not bad for a beginner, she says. She had a good teacher, snorts Dolly. Okay, I'll give you a medal, says Connie. Then Connie gets up to leave, telling Joyce to take care of the check.
Dolly glumly finishes sipping her coffee as Joyce goes to the register. Mike loudly asks her to go for a ride tonight. Joyce loudly declines, and then sotto voce says she'll meet him there tonight at 8. She goes back to the table, and then she and Dolly leave.
So next we see Mike and Joyce lying on a blanket in front of a weird projection of a beach.
It seems to be nighttime, and the tide is coming in.
It seems to be nighttime, except it's pretty well lit for nighttime on the beach.
Yes, there is a light coming from the side that makes Joyce's head cast a huge shadow on Mike's face.
Mike asks Joyce about what went on at the diner earlier tonight. Mike asks Joyce why she dissed him at the diner tonight. Joyce says she didn't think Connie would approve.
Joyce playfully offers Mike a home-cooked meal, but must take it back. Her parents don't know about him yet. Is this not their first date? Joyce says that her parents don't like her dating.
Oh, I see, says Mike. Boys are out, but stealing's in. Joyce says she didn't steal anything. She explains that she left money on the counter to pay for the earrings she took, so it wasn't really stealing. She says she knows how Mike feels about the club she's in, and he's probably right, but she needs this. Someone like him just wouldn't understand. What do you mean, someone like me? Asked Mike.
Joyce says it's because Mike is so secure. Mike doesn't agree. He's on his own, and she has parents. Joyce says that with her home life, she might as well be renting a room. Her parents just don't care about her. Mike says he's heard that before, but Joyce says that she and the other girls really don't have caring families. If their parents actually showed interest in them, well...
Mike says he doesn't want his girl hanging out with that crowd. Am I your girl? Asks Joyce. What do you think? Says Mike, smothering her with his face.
So is this their first date?
I was under the impression.
I was under the impression too, but now the girl gang is out in the schoolyard, sitting under a tree. Connie tells Joyce about her final test. She points out a couple leaning against a tree across the yard. The boy is Rip and the girl is Terry. Connie tells Joyce to go to Rip and ask him to take her to a dance next Saturday night. Joyce protests that she doesn't even know the guy. So introduce yourself, Connie says.
So Joyce goes over to Rip. Terry doesn't like Joyce moving in on her guy, but Rip wants to hear Joyce out. Joyce explains that she's a member of the Hellcats, and she'd like to invite Rip to a party. He asks where he can pick her up, and Joyce tells Rip to check with Connie for the deets. Then Joyce scampers off, and Terry asks Rip what's up with that. Hey, I don't owe you nothing, says Rip.
So Rip and Terry break up, I guess. Joyce goes back to report her success to Connie, saying that Rip would get with her for the details. Connie tells Joyce that with that go-getting attitude, she might get bumped up to the number 2 Hellcat. Dolly, standing next to them, jabs her knife into the tree. Connie tells Joyce that she and Rip will pick her up next Saturday night at 8. Joyce scampers off, and Dolly unsticks her knife from the tree.
Saturday afternoon, Joyce leaves her house to be picked up by Mike. He has to park next door because Joyce's parents still don't know about him. Joyce suggests they go to the beach. We've been to the beach, says Mike. But not in the daylight, says Joyce. Okay, says Mike, it's a good idea. We'll make a day of it. Dinner and a movie. That's a long day. Dinner, movie, and the beach?
They're young. They have more energy than we do.
But Joyce says she has to be back by 6 because she has to go to a party.
One that he's not invited to. It's a party with Connie and the gang. Mike complains, but Joyce doesn't want to hear it. He sounds like her father, and she doesn't need another man telling her what to do. Mike tells her that if she's ditching him on a Saturday night, they might as well not spend the day together either. Joyce says that she's had all she can take from him today, all 2.5 minutes of it, and then Mike asks Joyce who she's really going to the party with. Joyce gets out of the car and says that he knows where to find her when he's ready to apologize.
And you know how to reach me, says Mike, peeling out in his car. Inside the Martin home, Linda is looking at travel brochures while Roger is busy with his usual routine of reading the paper. Linda suggests it might be nice if the two of them took a trip together. But Roger is concerned about Joyce. She's too young to stay by herself, he says, and besides, he would want Joyce to go with them. Linda says she was hoping that the two of them could go alone, but Roger is firm. If Joyce isn't going, then neither is he. And he doesn't wish to discuss the matter any further.
Joyce comes downstairs in a pretty dress, and Dad immediately starts in on the lipstick. Why are you kids in such a hurry to grow up? He asks. Roger and Linda sure do their part to make it a very unappealing prospect. Then he asks where she's going and yells at her for not telling him about the party.
Why didn't you say something about it before? Asked Roger. Probably because you're never around, and when you are, you never want to talk, sobs Joyce. She told me, dear, says Linda. Roger asks Joyce if she's going with a boy. No, says Joyce, with a man. Then she storms out. See what I mean? Asks Roger. Linda tells him that Roger created this problem, so now he has to cope with it.
And now it's party time. All the high school kids are in someone's living room, dancing, drinking, and dancing. Rip, Connie's date Freddie, and Joyce come in. Connie insists they drink up, so Rip orders Freddie to make her a drink over Joyce's mild objection. Then Freddie and Connie go exploring.
Rip suggests that he and Joyce go with them, but Joyce says no. Then Rip asks Joyce to dance, and again Joyce says no.
It's too crowded.
Someday you are, complains Rip. Well, then maybe you should get yourself another one, snaps Joyce.
Rip says he will, and then goes to separate Meg from her date. Dolly swoops in to claim the leftover boy. Joyce assumes the wallflower position and hides her undrunk drink behind some bric-a-brac on the mantel. And then Chuck comes up to pull Joyce onto the dance floor, but she shakes him off.
Then Connie and Freddie come back into the room. Freddie has an idea for a game. It's called Sardines. He has a deck of cards, and he's going to pass them out to all the boys. Then they'll turn out the lights, and everyone has to identify as many people as they can in the dark.
Well, it's whoever has the ace of spades is supposed to be doing it. That's what he says. But that's not what happens.
That's not how they play, no.
No. So I don't know what all the setup was about. It's basically just a round of non-consensual groping.
Yeah, the lights go out and everyone gets touchy-feely.
Once again, Joyce has to fight off Chuck, that boy that wanted to dance. Everyone else seems to be having fun, though.
That is, until we hear the sound of a scream, followed by something heavy falling down the stairs. Turn on the lights, shouts Rip. They see the basement door is open, and Rip looks and sees Connie has fallen down the stairwell.
Freddie says she must have been trying to hide and thought that was a closet.
Rip runs down to check on her, then goes back up to report that Connie's dead.
Joyce gasps. Rick demands that someone turn off that record that's been playing the whole time. And then he takes control. He tells them all to go home or wherever they're going, and that they're to tell no one anything. They were never here. Then he tells Freddie, Connie's shell-shocked date, that they need to clean up the place. So indeed, it looks like they were never there. Oh wow, the boys are cleaning up after a party.
So the boys clean up as Joyce stands there watching. Once they finish, Rip tells her to come on, they'll take her home. But what about Connie, asks Joyce. What about her, says Rip.
Rip says the cops are already too hard on them, and there's no way to explain this, especially since they broke into party here. Joyce is aghast to be a party to this break-in.
Rip explains that the people who lived there were out of town, and that they've been waiting a long time for them to leave so that they can throw a party.
But the Hellcats beat them to it.
So they can't do anything about Connie without being charged for breaking and entering and trespassing.
And maybe murder. Rip and Freddie hustle Joyce out of there, and then they run her home in Rip's jalopy. They drop her off, but Rip parks down at the end of the street. Rip doesn't trust her to not run to the cops.
No telling what a nervous chick like that might do.
It looks like their suspicions are valid because she doesn't go inside her house.
No, as she goes to the door, Mike pulls up. He apologizes for arguing with her earlier in the evening, and she says she's sorry too and that they should put it all behind them. Mike invites her for a hamburger. It's not too late. And Joyce accepts.
Yeah, she could really use a burger right about now, what with the tragic death and all.
Joyce gets into the car, and they drive off, but Rip follows them and pulls in front of Mike, causing Mike to pull over.
They're in front of a park. Rip and Freddie get out of their car and pull Mike out of his, and they duke it out there in the park, as Joyce watches helplessly in her car. They're really not that far from Joyce's house. They're basically across the street. Mike knocks out Freddie and disables Rip and tells him that they're going to the cops. But Joyce intervenes. She tells Mike that she knows the boys from school and he should just let them go.
They tried to mug me, counters Mike, but Joyce again asks that Mike let them go.
They can just go back to his place and she'll fix his face, and Mike agrees. Rip leaves with an unconscious Freddie, and Joyce and Mike go back to his place.
After having his wounds cleaned from the fight, Mike comments on Joyce's choice of friends, and Joyce says that they're not friends, they were just at the party. They drove you home, you mean, says Mike, and Joyce starts to cry. She's sorry she even went to that party.
She tells him the party was bad, but won't tell him why. She just vaguely mentions that everyone was acting crazy there, and she just wanted to be with him, and this earns Mike's concern, and apparently lack of suspicion. At Joyce's house, Roger the dad is in a fit. He didn't spend all that money bringing up Joyce just to have her go out into wild parties. Mom Linda tells him to calm down and talks him out of calling the police, saying that it would only make him look ridiculous.
Now we're back at Mike's place. Joyce is asleep on Mike's lap, and he's smoking a cigarette. Joyce wakes up and realizes that she's got to get home. It's late. She starts to rush out, but Mike suggests she put on her shoes first. She sheepishly turns around and puts them on. Back at home, Roger and Linda are pacing around the room, still waiting for Joyce to return. They hear Joyce come in, and Linda asks Roger not to be too harsh on her. Joyce starts upstairs, but Roger calls her into the room. He tells her that she's out of control. Joyce protests that coming home late one night doesn't mean she's out of control, but Roger says from now on she's on a strict schedule, and she's not to go out without letting them know how long and with whom. Joyce says no.
Joyce tells her flabbergasted father that children have rights too, as well as responsibilities. Then she runs up the stairs. Roger goes to Linda to confirm that she also thinks that Joyce is in the wrong, but Linda also says no. If Roger wants respect, he should give it. Children are individuals, and we tend to forget that. Roger wonders when Linda became so psychological. Linda says that they need to try to understand their daughter.
Roger knows she's right. He doesn't know why he flies off the handle like that. Linda tells him to go to bed. They can straighten all this out in the morning. At school on Monday, the surviving Hellcats, Dolly, Meg, Laurie, Joyce, and the others, are convening in the schoolyard. Dolly tells the others it's been a day and a half since Connie disappeared. The police will be around soon, asking questions, so she reminds them to say that they haven't seen Connie since Friday afternoon. Laurie says they're liable to get into deeper trouble if they lie about what happened, but Dolly shuts her down, saying she and Connie organized the Hellcats, and now Dolly's taking over.
Dolly also says that she believes that Connie didn't just fall, she was pushed. And when she finds out who did it, she glares at all of them. Then she tells them all to scatter, and they all leave, except for Meg and Joyce, who stay behind to go over what just happened. Meg confesses that Dolly scares her. Meg thinks that Dolly might be off her rocker, but says that whoever pushed Connie is the one who should really be scared. Joyce asks Meg if Dolly really thinks that Connie was pushed. Dolly doesn't think, Meg says. She decides.
Now in Miss Davis's health class, and she's called away by the principal, and Miss Davis asks Meg to watch the class. Miss Davis goes into the teacher's lounge to meet with Police Lieutenant Manners. He offers a cigarette. She declines, but doesn't mind if he lights up. and Manners asks Miss Davis about Connie Harris. Miss Davis offers that she's in her class, but she's absent today. She's more than that, says Manners. She's missing. He explains that her mother last saw Connie leaving for a party Saturday night, and he would like to question some of the students. Some of her friends might have details about the party. Miss Davis tells him that Connie was in a group called the Hellcats, and most of them are in her class. Manners asks if she can send them in to speak with him one at a time, only don't tell him why.
And after he's spoken to all the girls, he'd like to see Miss Davis again. Miss Davis returns to her class and chooses Meg to be the first to chat with the cop, but doesn't tell her why. Dolly scowls at her anyways.
In the teacher's lounge, Meg tells Lieutenant Manners that she last saw Connie Friday afternoon, and when she didn't come to school this morning, Meg just figured Connie was sick. Manners asks about the party on Saturday, and Meg plays dumb. If there was a party, Meg wasn't invited. Wasn't one of your club socials, he asks. No, sir. If it were, we all would have been invited. That's all the questions for Meg. Manners asks her to have Miss Davis send in another girl.
Meg returns to class and says that he'd like to see another girl. Dolly looks very concerned at this point, but Joyce is the next to go in. Joyce knows nothing about any party. She does, however, tell him that Dolly and Connie are especially close, so Detective Manners asks her to send Dolly in next.
Joyce returns to the classroom and announces that it's Dolly's turn. Dolly slowly stands up. What's he asking? She asks Joyce, but Miss Davis tells her there will be no discussions on the matter. Dolly goes to the teacher's lounge, and Manners invites her in and asks her to take a seat. He says that one of her classmates has disappeared. Why do you want to talk to me? Asks Dolly. Because she's a friend of yours, says Manners. He tells her it's Connie, and Dolly doesn't seem too surprised about it. Well, who said she's missing? Asks Dolly. She hasn't been seen since Saturday when she left home dressed for a party, says Manners. Then he asks Dolly about the party, and she says that she and Connie are best friends. If Connie were going to a party, Dolly would have known about it.
Detective Manners asks if Connie had any enemies, and Dolly says no. Connie was a regular guy. Detective Manners seizes on Dolly's use of the past tense. Dolly snarls at him to leave her alone. She didn't do anything and she doesn't know anything. Lieutenant Manners tells her that she's been helpful and then sends her back with instructions to send Miss Davis back in.
When Miss Davis comes in, Manners goes over his notes with her. Joyce Martin seems like a good kid, and Dolly referred to Connie in the past tense, which is a little strange. But other than that, their stories all match up. I only questioned 3 girls.
It's either the truth or a well-organized lie.
Then he asks Miss Davis about her rapport with the girls. She says that they trust her. He asks if any of them might come to her if they have a problem. I don't know, says Miss Davis. They have before. Manners thinks they may just do that again, and asks if she finds out anything to give him a call. And he leaves her his card.
Now we're with Mike and Joyce in the car in front of her house. Or down the street. Joyce says that the play was swell, and she really liked his friends. Mike's glad she likes his friends because she's going to be seeing a lot more of them. Then he asks why she didn't tell him about the police coming to school. And Joyce lies about everything. She didn't talk to the cops, and she never saw Connie at that party. Then Plot Point Radio comes on to issue a bulletin.
The body of the missing girl, Connie Harris, was discovered in a locked home of a vacationing couple, who returned to find her body at the foot of the stairs. No further information available on what she was doing in a locked house at this time. Mike says that whatever did happen to Connie, she asked for it. How can you say that? It was an accident, says Joyce. There was no accident that she was in that locked house, he says.
He feels that way about all the gang members, but not her, though. Joyce says that she knows he doesn't mean her, and then begs to go in her house. She's tired. He kisses her goodbye and she gets out of the car. Through the window, she tells him that she's quitting the Hellcats. Mike's pleased to hear this, and pleased to hear that she wasn't involved in whatever happened to Connie.
They say goodbye, and Joyce heads to her front door. After Mike has driven away, Joyce changes course and heads over to Miss Davis's house. Miss Davis is serving coffee while wondering why a student is visiting her at home at this time of night. Joyce says she just needed to talk, and Miss Davis asks if her parents know where she is. Joyce says no, so Miss Davis offers to call her parents so they won't worry.
She calls Joyce's house, and Linda answers. She explains what's going on, and that Joyce is there. Linda says that she and Miss Davis simply must get together, but she's busy at all the times Miss Davis suggests, which upsets Joyce, who's listening in. Miss Davis promises to send Joyce home in a taxi and then hangs up. Bet she had a bridge game, snarks Joyce. Miss Davis says that she didn't say why she couldn't meet.
Then Miss Davis asks Joyce if she's heard that they found Connie's body. Oh? Where? asks Joyce. In a locked house in the hills, says Miss Davis. Joyce starts grabbing her things, saying she's got to go. Miss Davis tries to slow her down, asking if she knows anything about Connie and if there was a party Saturday night. Joyce asks her please to not ask any more questions, and she runs out of the house.
But your taxi, she shouts at her, retreating form. Now we're in Miss Davis's class, but nobody is there except Dolly. Joyce comes in, seeing that Dolly's writing a note to leave on her desk. Dolly says that she can just tell her now. There's an emergency meeting of the Hellcats tonight. but she's not to discuss it with anybody. Dolly says that she tried to call Joyce last night. Where were you? She asks. Joyce says she was on a date. With the cops, Dolly screams. Joyce tells Dolly to not be so smart, but Dolly has to be so smart now.
Then Joyce confesses that she wants to quit the Hellcats. Oh, says Dolly. We'll talk about it tonight. Can't I just quit right now? Asks Joyce. No, says Dolly. There are certain things that need to be settled first. You be there. So that evening, Mike is driving Joyce to her final Hellcats meeting. He's disappointed that she hasn't quit yet, and she tells him that this is just a formality. Where they're going is just a few more blocks down the road, and she promises not to be more than 10 minutes.
Now we're back at Miss Davis's house, where she gets 2 more visitors. Meg and Laurie, the girl with the tragic bangs. They don't have much time. They tell her that Joyce is in trouble. They went through Joyce's things and found out that Dolly set up a meeting with just Joyce, and Miss Davis makes them all spill as to why this would be bad for Joyce.
Meg and Laurie tell Miss Davis all about the abandoned movie house, and that they all attended that party that Saturday night. Connie had fallen down the stairs, but Dolly suspected she was pushed, and she said she was going to find out who did it and get them. And they're afraid that she thinks that Joyce did it. Why didn't you tell this to the police? Asked Miss Davis. The girls say Dolly told them not to say anything, and the police wouldn't believe them anyway. Well, I'm afraid that was a mistake, says Miss Davis, hurrying to the phone. She calls Lieutenant Manners and catches him up on the information of which she's just learned.
Now we're with Mike, who's dropping off Joyce in front of the theater. He promises that after 10 minutes, he's coming in after her no matter what. Joyce goes into the theater and climbs the stairs to find only Dolly there. Joyce figures out instantly that she's in danger and runs for it. But Dolly chases Joyce to the edge of the balcony. Joyce wants to know what's up with Dolly. Dolly tells Joyce why she suspects her of pushing Connie down the stairs, and that she knows Joyce wants to frame Dolly for the crime.
Dolly tells Joyce that it's not just a coincidence that the police asked for Dolly by name after questioning Joyce. Joyce says she only said that Dolly and Connie were best friends, but Dolly has more. What about the night she had that date and the police found Connie the same night? Dolly says she knows that Joyce pushed Connie down the stairs and is trying to blame Dolly for it. You're crazy, shouts Joyce. Don't say that. Don't ever say that, yells Dolly as she chases after Joyce.
But Dolly has her cornered. The cops arrive at the theater and Mike joins them when they go in. Upstairs in the balcony, Dolly is pressing Joyce to the edge and tells her that she has to get rid of her. Joyce knows who pushed Connie. Sweet, simple Joyce doesn't know, though. So Dolly fills her in. Dolly was convinced that Connie liked Joyce better than Dolly. So Dolly shoved Connie down the stairs, and now she's going to fix Joyce.
She pulls on her switchblade and lunges at Joyce. But Joyce dodges and Dolly falls over the balcony, screaming all the way, landing with a thud on the floor below.
The cops rush in to find her there. Lieutenant Manners checks for a pulse and then calls up to see if Joyce is okay. Joyce says she is. Miss Davis, Meg, and Laurie rush into the theater, but the cops stop them from getting too close to Dolly's body.
Mike runs up to the balcony, and he and Joyce embrace. He tells her it's all right, it's all over now. She tells him it was horrible, and Mike tells her to go down and tell the police all about it.
They go down, and she starts to confess to the police what Dolly told her. But Lieutenant Manners tells her to go home and get some rest, and to come in tomorrow and tell everything. Mike asks the cops if she's in trouble, but Lieutenant Manners doesn't think so. But he does chastise Joyce for letting things get this bad, when she should have just told them about the party in the first place.
Mike takes Joyce down to his car, and Miss Davis goes to a payphone to let Joyce's parents know what happened. She tells them that the boy bringing her home is Mike Landers. He's a nice and trustworthy boy, and she says that she and Linda must get together soon.
And Linda agrees. Then we're in front of Joyce's house. Mike walks Joyce to her door as her parents open it. Roger and Linda embrace their daughter, then Linda and Joyce go in the house. Before Mike can leave, Roger throws his arm around him and pulls him into the house as well. And that's the end.
You're listening to the American International Podcast, and we're discussing High School Hellcats from 1958.
In January of 1958, the Los Angeles Mirror announced that American International Pictures had signed a contract with Buddy Rogers and Ferd Groff Jr. to produce 2 films, High School Hellcats and what the paper called Hot Rod Rock, with filming in February and March, respectively. Mark McGee, in his Faster and Furiouser book, said that actress Mary Pickford, who was married to Rogers, put up $100,000 to fund each film.
High School Hellcats started shooting in April of 1958. Shooting took place in Los Angeles at several private homes, according to the Los Angeles Evening Citizen News. In the book Location Filming in Los Angeles, the author said that filming took place on Comstock Avenue in Holmby Hills, with Holmby Park in the background.
On April 11, 1958, Mike Connolly, in his syndicated column, announced that cool cat, Yvonne Lime, signed to star in American International's High School Hellcats. On April 15th, a blurb in the Los Angeles Mirror announced that Tommy Cook would have a featured role in High School Hellcats. Later that month, the additions of Robert Anderson and Arthur Marshall to the cast were announced.
High School Hellcats was released in June of 1958 on a double bill with Hot Rod Gang. Taglines for High School Hellcats include, "What must a good girl do to belong to a taboo sorority?"
Good Girls Gone Bad.
And for the double feature, Double Sock Rock and Thrill Show.
Proud Young Rebels, the true story of today's youth.
In Erskine Johnson's syndicated column published April 21st, 1958, he quipped, "Hollywoodites are talking about the forthcoming double bill that should tee off the PTA, Hot Rod Gang and High School Hellcats."
The film was indeed condemned by PTA groups in Los Angeles, along with its co-feature, Hot Rod Gang. However, the Catholic League of Decency declared it morally unobjectionable for adults only.
In October 1958, at an American International Pictures luncheon for the Theater Owners Association of America, producer Jerry Wald said that pictures like High School Hellcats are not the type of picture on which we can build the market of the future. While they may make a few dollars today, they will destroy us tomorrow. Producer James H. Nicholson responded by stating, "I'd rather take my children to see these pictures than God's Little Acre." Samuel Z. Arkoff, who was also present, was more cutting. After first telling Wald that he hoped he enjoyed the lunch that AIP paid for, he reminded the producer that his own Peyton place contained as much, if not more, indecency as it depicted incest, rape, and murder.
Teresa Loeb Cohen of the Oakland Tribune gave a brief review of both films. Brief because she didn't watch either in its entirety. Quote, "Having seen only a portion of High School Hellcats and Hot Rod Gang, I can only report that they share a general phoniness as to characterization and story. Using mostly little-known players in the cast, the films are obviously aimed at stirring teenage audience support. Perhaps these films will be interesting to adolescents, but what I witnessed was a bore."
Marjorie Adams in the Boston Globe also reviewed both halves of the double feature, saying, "If teenagers all over the country were as depicted in High School Hellcats and Hot Rod Gang, it would augur badly for the future of America. Fortunately, these are mere sensational plots of teenage activities in limited youthful circles." She called Hellcats childish melodrama for the most part that solves no juvenile delinquency problems, and concluded to the youngsters in the audience, "Everything seems to make sense. The grown-ups didn't seem to react in any way whatsoever, neither appreciating the immature gags or worrying visibly about the misadventures of the kids."
Jack Moffat in The Hollywood Reporter wrote, "I found the teenage audience so enthusiastically and vociferously on the side of virtue that I left the theater comfortably reassured concerning the next generation, and more than a little inspired. High School Hellcats has strong appeal for young audiences, and it pleases them."
Director Edward Bernds gladly sold his pieces of High School Hellcats and Reformed Schoolgirl to television, according to McGee. "I never made a dime on those pictures until they sold to TV," Bernds is quoted as saying. "They told me they never went into profit," he said of Arkoff and Nicholson. So, Cheryl, we didn't find a lot when we researched this film, which is kind of interesting because I feel like there's a lot to be said about it.
I think so, too. Although it is the standard AIP morality play where, yes, there are juvenile gangs and they do bad things, but it's really the fault of the parents. And if the parents would only pay attention to their kids, none of this would ever have happened.
Yeah, they drive that point really hard when they have Joyce express that, "Of course I'm in a gang. I'm ignored at home."
And she is. And her dad's a jerk. And there's possibly more going on there. His reaction to seeing her in a slip was way over the top. He actually smacked her in the way that he wanted to vacation, not with his wife, but with his wife and daughter. And he was so insistent on it, it gave me some real bad vibes. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to think that those were dropped in to give those bad vibes. I don't know if they would be picked up by everyone, but I think watching this in 2026 as we did, it's certainly easy to pick up on those.
Yeah, and I think you're right that it's deliberate because she was wearing that slip for no reason, really. She ended up wearing pants, and she was going to wear a sweater and whatever underneath. She didn't need to stroll through in her slip, but they did have her do that just so her dad could react so violently. So yeah, I think you're right about that.
I do want to mention that Yvonne Lime recently passed away as we were recording this. In fact, after we watched this the first time, I immediately got online and found out that she had passed that day.
Yeah, that was shocking. And it was also surprising to find out that she lived not that far from us.
No, she was just a couple miles away.
All this time, we've been in the same town as Yvonne Lime, who I think is adorable in this movie.
Oh, she is. She's almost a cartoon character because she's so, oh my.
She's so innocent and sweet and stupid and a terrible, terrible liar. But she gets away with it.
And she's absolutely adorable. You're right.
That's why she gets away with it. She's just so beautiful and sweet and everything.
Yeah, we previously saw her in I Was a Teenage Werewolf, of course. And I don't think her character was that gosh darn cute. It might just be the ponytail making the difference because she had kind of a more well-kept do in that film.
Right, but she also wasn't the star of that movie. She's the star of this movie. It's all about her. It's her story. And I think when you get the lead role, you get a little more to your character than just the girlfriend of the werewolf.
I did want to mention we are going to see her in one more film from AIP because she appears in Dragship Riot as well.
We still have a few more of these juvenile delinquent movies to get through, even though it seems like we've watched so many of them. We didn't see Hot Rod Gang yet either.
Yeah, but there's still a handful of them left to go.
And that's good because these are kind of my favorite of the AIP genres. Well, that and the blaxploitation movies. But these are just so simple and sweet. A lot of predictable stuff happens, but it's just fun to watch them go through all the motions of this teenage rebellion.
Yeah, I like these ones too. And I think it's just the amount of melodrama in these short black and white films that AIP put out. The drama is just so over the top and it's fun to watch.
I agree. What I thought was interesting about this one that is different from the others is that on the surface, it seems like our main antagonist is going to be Connie in this movie. But then she gets killed halfway through. And then you discover that, wait a minute, it was Dolly who was the main bad girl in this case all along. And you should have seen that from the beginning because if you look at her face, you can see that Connie has nothing on her in terms of badness. She is unhinged.
And Dolly was played by Suzanne Sidney, who we've also seen before. She played Birdie in Motorcycle Gang prior to her appearance in High School Hellcats.
And there she was basically a fat joke in that movie, although she was very cute in that. I thought the movie did her dirty. She's very funny in that.
Suzanne Sidney's next and final appearance in an AIP film, according to IMDb, is Angels from Hell, where she plays the character of Buff and is credited as Ginger Snap. So we will be looking at that sometime in the future on American International Podcast.
Cool.
Another familiar face was Bret Halsey. We saw him fairly recently in Where Does It Hurt, where he played Dr. Quagliomo.
That was in the 70s, so this is one of his earlier roles.
But he did two other AIP films that we haven't done yet, Submarine Seahawk and Spy in Your Eye. So we'll be seeing more of him too.
I always think of him as the romantic lead, I guess you could call him, in the movie The Girl in Lover's Lane, which was featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000. And his name in that movie is Bix Dugan, but immediately the MST3K guys started calling him Big Stupid. And so now every time I see him, I'm like, oh, Big Stupid's in this. That's another good teenage melodrama movie, but not AIP. Linda, the mom character in this, it seemed like the movie was trying to assassinate her character because she had a life and she wasn't devoting herself to her child and husband 24/7. Every time she was busy doing something for herself, she's basically getting the approbation of the movie through her daughter, through her husband, through Miss Davis. Anytime she's too busy to be at the beck and call of her 17-year-old child, the movie basically craps on her. I thought that was an interesting aspect to the plot.
Right, and the character of Roger, who plays her husband, keeps saying things to that effect, but his actions, he's just always reading the paper and ignoring everything else around him.
Mm.
And he was played by Don Shelton, who we've also seen before in Dragstrip Girl and Invasion of the Saucermen.
Well, the reason I brought up the mom is because this is 1958. It's many years after the wars ended, and the unhappy housewife is starting to become part of the national consciousness. It starts off as something that women kind of keep to themselves, but being chained to the home and family chafes at a lot of women, and they're not necessarily happy there. And so I think this movie is kind of recognizing that it's up to women to keep everyone in line by sacrificing themselves. And so I think we get a little bit of that there. I don't know if that's the takeaway we're supposed to get, that she is being penalized for not sacrificing herself to her family, but that's definitely what I picked up on.
And it's obviously having an effect on her daughter, too, because now Joyce is in this gang because she's not getting the attention at home that she may require.
Yeah, but at her age, she should be getting into college or something. She should be looking at her future, not sitting around waiting to be mothered.
She's not going to college. She's going to marry. It's 1958.
I know, but girls still went to college then. There are still women.
She's not going. She doesn't know what she wants to be, so she's just going to get married and take the easy way out.
I guess she doesn't need to get her MRS degree if she's already got a guy.
She hangs out with Mike. He's got a future. He's going to be an engineer.
Yeah, they'll get married for sure. Their relationship developed off screen, I guess.
Or it's just a really good day at the beach or a night at the beach.
Sometimes you just know, you know.
They weren't even at the beach. It was a rear projection of a beach.
That was a funny scene. It actually looks better than a lot of rear projections we've seen in AIP films, though.
It's still very obvious that they're not really at the beach.
I know. Just saying it could have been worse. So it's kind of funny that critics decry these movies as exploitation of juvenile crime when it's really the opposite. They're excusing juvenile crime but they're blaming it on the parents. And then at the end, everything is all tied up in a neat little bow. So they're not really exploring the reality of juvenile delinquency, of teen-on-teen crime, of broken families. It's just very simplistic look at it.
Well, this isn't really the best example of that. I mean, besides petty theft, the worst thing they do is they rag on their substitute teacher.
That's true. They broke into a theater. I guess that was bad. And one of them committed murder, but she was just kind of psycho.
Oh, yeah. Excluding the murder, I meant.
Yeah. They broke into the house and they left a body to rot on the stairs for a week. So that's bad. Whether or not they killed her, they should have told somebody. They could have called from a payphone. It would have been traceable. Certainly would have been nicer for the people who came home from vacation to find a dead girl in their basement. I can only imagine. We were spared that scene. But can you... Oh my gosh. That would have been another fun thing. And this movie was fun.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed this one. One of the newspaper blurbs that we read mentioned Tommy Cook being cast, and he played Freddy, which is an uncredited role. Mm-hmm. But Tommy Cook was a pretty prolific actor by this point. He was a child star and had been acting since 1940. So this must have been kind of a downtime for him, actually.
He doesn't have much to do here, but I did notice him after Connie is found dead, and that's his date. He just looks so stunned. Like he just doesn't know what to do with himself, and it's Rip that has to snap him back to get out of there mode. And I just thought that was like a good little bit of acting from him.
Yeah, and it made sense for the three to stay who did. It was Rip and Tommy and Joyce because they all came together with Connie. So when everybody else left, they were kind of stuck there until Rip decided he was ready to go. And so he took charge and said, let's clean this place up. And Joyce sat there doing nothing. Well,
I think she was just as stunned as Freddie was. Also, she's a very passive person throughout the course of this movie. Only when she gets goaded into action does she actually do anything.
Well, I kind of get the feeling it takes her a while to figure out what's going on.
I don't think anybody would be shocked if you're dancing at a party and then all of a sudden somebody's dead at the foot of the stairs.
How dumb was that game?
The weird thing is that they explain that the guy with the ace of spades is the one who goes first, but then they turn off the lights before anyone can even look at their cards, and everybody starts the free-for-all.
They just assumed they had the ace of spades. They couldn't see any differently. So
that's true. And it's just a big game of grabbing and goosing people, which was obviously the point, but why does it have rules? And why is it sardines? Doesn't sardines mean they're all pressed together close? Not everyone's scurrying around looking for somebody to grope? Anyway, I didn't write it.
I do have a couple of other cast mentions. Meg was played by Heather Ames, who we recently saw in How to Make a Monster as pretty much the only female character in the whole film.
Just about, yeah. And she didn't have much to do. She was only in one scene. So here she had a little more to work with.
And she also appears in Blood of Dracula, another one for a future episode. And Troy Patterson, who played Chuck, he's the guy who comes over and tries to get Joyce to dance with him at the party after Rip takes off.
Yeah, he manhandles her a couple times.
He was the elevator operator in Attack of the Puppet People.
Oh, that was him?
Yeah.
I think it was the younger guy that replaced the older guy that got turned into a puppet.
And he's also in Earth vs. the Spider, another Bert I. Gordon flick.
Well, we've got a lot to look forward to. This cast. It's pretty obvious that this movie was made for teenagers, as it basically gets them off the hook for anything bad that they might do by blaming the parents. So I think that's pretty smart on AIP's part. Even though it looks phony to us, I think the kids probably appreciated it. I couldn't tell if this was a successful movie for them, but it aired in so many theaters, it must have at least made its budget back.
Well, neither of us has seen Hot Rod Gang yet, I don't believe. Have you?
No.
But judging by the title, I think it'd be a pretty good double feature because I did enjoy this half.
Well, it has John Ashley in it, so it depends on how you feel about John Ashley. I have mixed feelings depending on the role.
Well, that's fair. So we both seem to enjoy this movie, which I think I know the answer, but why don't you make it official? How does that equate to a rating on our AIP scale where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic?
Oh, Jeff, you know me so well. It's definitely an A. I really enjoyed this movie. And despite the fact that it does have a bit of silliness to it, but then you kind of want a bit of silliness in a movie like this. I think it's even better than the standard AIP juvenile delinquent formula, one that we've seen so many times before, just because, this is about a bunch of girls, which is a little different. It's usually a bunch of guys in a gang.
Like in Reform School Girl and Sorority Girl.
Okay, never mind. I like that it was about a bunch of girls.
Girls in prison.
Which Obviously, it was another one of their tropes. Girls in gangs, girls in prison. And I like that all the characters in the gang were given their own personality. And it was obvious that Joyce was not cut out for this from the beginning, but she tried to make it work. And just seeing that mismatch was where the fun came in. And it was short and pretty heavy on the action. It seemed like a lot happened. So yeah, I believe this is an A movie. What do you think?
I think that a lot of the fun in this movie is just watching wide-eyed Joyce be part of this gang of
hooligans,
miscreants. She's always gasping at everything that's going on around her. She obviously doesn't fit into this group.
No.
But she doesn't fit in at home either, so at least they're accepting her for now.
Mm-hmm. It's not like she had a choice.
What really seems false about it is that they would want her in the first place. Because she so obviously doesn't fit in. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie as well. This is going to be on the higher tier, I think, of these AIP juvenile delinquent films that we've seen. And we've seen probably more than 50% of them by now.
Yeah, I can't think of how many we haven't seen, but I definitely remember what we did see.
We just have the car ones left, I think. Drag Strip Riot, Hot Rod Gang, Hot Rod Girl, Goes to Drag Strip Hollow.
So there's quite a few. I know this is one that I picked rather than being assigned to us randomly. And I'm glad I did.
What really surprises me is that this one isn't better regarded historically. It's not one that comes to people's minds, I think, when they're thinking of AIP from the period. It's not one that is readily available. It's not hard to find, but it's not easily accessible unless you seek it out, which I guess a lot of these are now, but some of them are definitely easier to find than others. It's not as difficult to find as, say, Runaway Daughters, but another 100% girl-themed movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this one was just great, and this one is definitely an awesome A for me as well.
Well, if you'd like to join our not-so-secret society for the American International Podcast, we'd love to have you with no initiation rights. Go to our website, aippod.com. There you'll find our entire library of over 150 episodes, as well as a contact form. Talk to us, why don't you? Tell us which movie you are most looking forward to us reviewing, make a comment on something we've said, or help us track down some AIP movies missing from our library. You can also find out a lot more about the movies we have covered, as we have lobby cards, posters, trailers, and other advertising materials on display. And you can see where to find these films so that you can enjoy them at home. While you're on our site, consider going to our store, as a purchase of one of our fine items helps keep the podcast rolling every week. Just go over to aippod.com.
Well, with all the pointless death in this movie, I think this has been a real high school hell catastrophe. And with that, I'm sure it's past time to end this episode of the American International Podcast. Until next time, I'm Jeff Markin.
I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.